Hi guys, just wanted to give you a guide on the fastest way to farm the blue beetle. So I'll just sort of run through the main parts that you need and the fastest way to farm them. So as with basically all farms, you're going to want to farm these top three components first. So reason being, they have a 2-hour craft time. So what you do is you'll farm them, get them crafting, and then that sort of gives you 2 hours to go out and farm the code, and it can save you a little bit of time all in all. So for the first part, the polymer, you're going to want to farm pattern 92. So the reason why you want to farm pattern 92 is it has the highest drop chance at 32%. It also uses monomer and polymer for the actual void fusion reactor where you open up the amorphous material, and monomer is by far the fastest shard to farm and polymer is the second fastest, so you really cannot go wrong with it. And with the most recent patch that came out where bosses are just basically way easy to kill at the void fusion reactors, that isn't really a deciding factor anymore, so you really want to be deciding which amorphous material to go after based on which shard the void fusion reactors use, and this uses better shards than the other options. So as mentioned, pattern 70, whilst it's not the worst, it uses polymer as a primary and monomer as a secondary, as opposed to monomer as a primary and polymer as a secondary, so it's slightly worse than amorphous material 92. And then both the common option and the normal option, so pattern 10 and pattern 42, don't waste your time on those. They only have a 6% drop chance for the item, so just stick with pattern 92 and you can't go wrong. So for the second part, the fibre, you're going to want to go after pattern 77. Reason being, it has the highest drop chance at 32%, and whilst the actual dungeon mission for pattern 77 is around about that 10-minute mark, so a bit of a longer one, you can of course play around with the difficulty settings to guarantee yourself 2 amorphous materials per run, so that way it's only taking about 5 minutes per amorphous material. And on top of that, Devourer is by far the quickest hard mode boss to kill. You can do it in under a minute with just so many builds, and so that's why you sort of want to go for 77 rather than 94, because whilst 94 is also around that 10-minute mark to get the amorphous material, Swampwalker is just a longer boss, so you'll be wasting more time. And then you don't want to be going for pattern 25 or pattern 35, because pattern 25 only has a 15% drop chance, whereas pattern 35 only has a 6% drop chance, so you just be wasting a ton of time. So for the third part, the nanotube, it's actually the opposite here to most farms. The hard modes actually have a lower drop chance, so the hard modes only give you a 32% drop chance, whereas the normal and common are giving you a 38%, so you actually want to be going for these. And of the two, you're going to be wanting to go after pattern 26. So the reason for that is, unfortunately, pattern 19 is through one of the special operations, and so you aren't guaranteed an amorphous material, and these can take around 10 minutes for a whole run. They're quite difficult, and you're not even guaranteeing yourself an amorphous material from the run, so you're going to end up wasting quite a lot of time. And so that's why I'd suggest pattern 26 instead. Because it's a normal mode, the void fusion reactor where you actually unlock the amorphous material is quite cheap. It only uses 12 organic and 3 inorganic, so it's not going to take you long to farm those. And because it's a normal mode one, you actually have a double drop chance from the outpost. So you can see here, if you don't use Sharon, just from the main reward, you have a 20% drop chance for amorphous material 26. But if you use Sharon, you also then have a 5 to 20% drop chance for pattern 26. And by the way, if you're wanting to get that 20% rather than the 5%, all you need to do is just stealth disable all the parts within the outpost, and that's what sort of makes the difference between 5 and 20%. So for example, if you only stealthed one and then broke the others, you'd be more towards that 5%. So just break them all, you'll get to the 20%, and then that way you're having a 40% drop chance and you can sort of get a double drop. So it's actually a really nice farm, this one. And then again, you don't want to be farming pattern 119 or pattern 103, because they both have a lower drop chance, and because they're hard mode rather than common or normal mode, it's just going to take longer and waste more time. And then lastly, for the code, you're going to want to go after pattern 69. So pattern 69 has a 32% drop chance for the item, so it's sort of the joint highest drop chance. And on top of that, the mission itself takes around about 6 minutes per run, and so if you're playing around with your difficulty score, you can get 2 amorphous materials per 6 minutes, so it's 1 amorphous material per 3 minutes. The only thing I would say is, if you are playing around with your difficulty score to get double amorphous materials, you do need a very high score for this particular dungeon. You need around that 250% mark, so it is a bit of a pain. But the other option is you can wait around a little bit longer just to let a few more enemies spawn it in, and it will still be quicker than pattern 86, because pattern 86 takes around about 8 minutes per run. And then on top of that, Dead Bride and Pyromaniac take around about the same time to kill, so there's not really too much difference there. And then the reason why you want to avoid pattern 23 is simply because it's just a lower drop chance, so only a 3% drop chance. And then you'll want to avoid pattern 127 because Morton Fortress is just a more difficult boss, and you're going to end up wasting a lot of time if you're trying to get this done in public lobbies. And so for the pain point items, the first one being the Anode Iron Particle, you're going to want to go to this mission over here. So it's in the Fractured Monolith, and it's the Large Supply Transport Point. What you're basically going to do is you're going to start the mission, you're going to run through until you get to the point where there are 7 Kuiper shards to break, you know, where you sort of stand in the circles for 10-15 seconds. And what you do is you'll break all but one of them, and then you sort of just wait for the timer to get down to around 30 seconds, and in that time about 5 yellow health bosses will spawn in, and they can each drop 2 at a time, and then with 30 seconds left you'll just break the last one and sort of rinse and repeat, sort of restart the mission and do that again until you have all of the parts that you need. So for the second pain point item, the synthesized artificial biometal, it's quite a nice easy one. All you do, just pick an outpost. Normal mode is going to be slightly quicker, but hard mode will probably give you more useful amorphous materials to sort of make that decision of which one you want to farm, and you'll just sort of farm that and repeat until you get the item. It won't take you long really. And then for the last pain point item, the compound carbon activator. Now unfortunately there really isn't a very good farm for this. The best one is if you go onto normal mode, Mystery's End, and you're pretty much just going to run through until you get to the yellow health boss, kill it, and then restart the mission. You're going to get around about 5 per run, so it's probably going to take you 2 runs. It's a bit of a pain, but fortunately you only need 7 in total, so it won't take you too long. So yeah, I hope that helps. Thanks.